channel. If you don't want to route the DME by changing the input to the keyer, you can do it the old-fashioned way, and it looks like we're simulating aux buses. In other words, I select DME1 video here. Notice I have a red high tally since it's on the air. And I can come down here and change the inputs. A good rule of thumb to follow is, if you route from the keyer, you don't have to care what channel of DME you're using, you just care what keyer it is. If you do it the old-fashioned way, you don't care what keyer you're using, but you do care what channel you're using. Now that we know how to get in and out of the DME, let's go ahead and build some effects with it. So up here we see DME1 is highlighted. If you look at your program screen, we now have a square box. Over here up in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to park the box. Over on my keyframe panel down here, this panel right here is where I create and play back keyframes. To the left of the fader bar is where keyframes are played back. To the right of the fader bar is where keyframes are edited. So looking here, if I want to insert a keyframe here, I'm going to press the INS button, Insert. It'll flash, and if we look up at our menu display, we see now that we have keyframe 1 of 1. That tells me that I'm sitting on the first keyframe and there's only one keyframe in the entire effect. I'm going to move this down to the corner here, and I'm going to insert another keyframe. Now, keyframe 2 of 2, and notice that I now have an actual timeline. If I move the lever arm on the keyframe panel, you'll see the interpolation between the two keyframes. You can also see that represented graphically on the timeline display here. I want to go to the second keyframe, so I'm going to hit Next Keyframe. It'll take me to keyframe 2, and we're going to build a couple more keyframes. Might move this one over here, rotate it a little bit, bring it off to the side, insert another keyframe. Now I want to bring the entire thing full screen. So if I hit Clear Work Buffer, what will happen is it'll bring the entire picture back up full on the screen. I want to make the keyframe out of that, so I'm going to hit Insert. And now let's run our effect and see what happens. I'm going to hit the Rewind button on the keyframe control panel. That's to the left of the fader bar. And now the only big button on this panel is called Run. We hit Run, and now you can see our effect running. Using these basic building blocks, we can now create complex effects like this. What you're seeing here is an example of our advanced lighting and texture package for the MVE 9000 and the plug-in DME for the DVS 9000. Another example is this. This is all one channel of effects. Here's an example, again, of textured lighting. The texture is generated inside the DME. And if you look at this, it's actually lighting stuff outside the DME. Here's an example of 3 lights on one channel of DVE. Every single thing that you see here is one channel. This is an example of intersecting combining planes. This is using 2 channels of DME, but it's only using one keyer. The border on the outside is created from Art Edge, which allows me to separate the border from the effect. And of course you can see here the textured lighting. Here's an example of the incredible nonlinear 3D-like effects that the switcher can generate. As you can see here, we have shadows and shading and lighting on the top. And like we talked about a moment ago, this is an example of Art Edge. The border can be physically moved off the side. It can be softened inner, outer, moved around. And of course, the final thing, it's going to melt off the page. In addition to everything we've just seen, there's another type of effect that's historically been kind of complex to produce, and that's a 3-dimensional object like a cube or a slab. With the Sony switcher, it's really easy to create. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my keyer and I'm going to assign 3 channels of DME to the same keyer. What that's going to do is allow us to turn a combiner on. Next thing I'm going to do is go into the menu and select DME Global Effect and turn on the brick. I can now, with my trackball, shrink this down. Looks just like a regular DME channel until I turn on rotation and move it around. Now I've got a 3-sided object. Obviously I've got a couple of problems with this. One, I want to build a slab, so it's a little too big. So on the menu I'm going to adjust the height parameter. And now notice what it's doing. All channels are interlocked together. And so when I adjust the height, it adjusts both the vertical side and the horizontal side and brings the Z-axis in from the front and back. The next thing I want to do is I need to find my Sony logo again, because when I cropped it down, it disappeared. So I'm going to adjust the side vertical crop. I'm going to adjust vertical. And notice that the Sony logo now slides right back in. Of course, it's backwards, so I'm going to hit side, vertical, back, invert. And now I've got a correctly reading logo. I can spin it around, and I can even put something different on the back side. I can do that by going into my DME menu, selecting Input Output, turning on Separate Side, and now I have a slab that took probably about 30 seconds to produce, instead of having to do all the math that's normally associated with creating a cube or a slab. I can also do something a little more traditional, i.e. 3 boxes. I'm going to clear out all my DME channels using Clear Work Buffer, and I'm going to compress these back. Here's channel 1, there's the second channel, and there's the third channel. I can also do something like this. Here's a more traditional look for a 3-box. This would be for a newscast. I can also instantly change to another 3-box. And of course, all of this is on one single keyer. The MVS and DVS switcher has an 8-channel frame memory system. This frame memory system allows me to take stills or even animations out of a common bin that can hold up to hundreds of stills. Let's take a look. Here on the menu, I can look at the frame memory outputs in pairs. Here's frame memory 1 and 2, frame memory 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. If I scroll down here, I see the entire library available to me. As you can see here, these are individual frames of an animation. If I press the pair button, now I can recall in pairs so that I get my proper video and key signal. The edit menu allows me to freeze live video. For instance, if I press freeze enable, live video is now passed through the frame memory. If I hit frame, it'll automatically freeze the frame. I can store that into the frame memory system. I can either use the default name or maybe type my own name, Cam6. Hit enter, and now it stores as Cam6 and creates a thumbnail to show me the picture that's been stored. If I now go look through here, I can actually see Cam6 inside the library. Using the animation feature, I can now record live video. If I hit record, it's now recording this. So now that we've recorded these, we can go and look at them and see here are all the individual frames that we recorded. And of course, if we scroll through, it looks remarkably like animation. Go back to the animation menu and select Create Keyframe. We'll scroll down to the bottom, find our animation. We can even have a little thing called Viewer, which shows us that scrolling through to make it look like it's working. And we're going to say Create Keyframe. We'll put it into Register 10, hit Create Keyframe, and it's going to create all the keyframes needed to do this. And you can actually watch on the program monitor as it goes through every single still that was recorded. And when it gets finished, all I have to do now is play it back. Later in the program, we'll show how to tie all this together with the shotbox to create stunning transitions between videos. The switcher also has powerful color correction features, such as basic video proc or TBC type controls, RGB primary color correction, secondary 6-vector color correction, and spot color correction. Let's take a look. Okay, so over here on this menu, this is the Program Preset Video Process menu. I have Video Process turned on. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to adjust the video gain. These are very similar to TBC controls. I'm going to adjust video gain, chroma gain, make it black and white, I can even make it inverted, hue delay, which is phasing, and black level adjustments. And Unity brings it back. So let's go over to the color correction menu now. And now on color correction, I have primary color correction and secondary color correction and spot color correction. Here I'm going to go to primary, and now I'm going to adjust just the whites. So now instead of adjusting the entire level, I'm adjusting just the white portion of the screen. Reds, greens, blues. In addition to the whites, I can adjust blacks, gamma, and knee controls. I also have the ability to mask it. Secondary color corrector gives me a lot more flexibility. If I turn on my secondary color correction, if I want to look at this and I want to say, you know, the person in blue down towards the front of the picture needs to pop out a little bit more, I can select blue, adjust the luminance on that, adjust the saturation, and you can see now that the blue is popping out. I can also say, I don't want it blue anymore, I want to change their shirt to green. Let's take the yellow and bring everything on yellow up. Now here's a problem. Notice the tree, because it's green, green has a little yellow in it. All I have to do is turn on my mask. Now if you look at it carefully, I can adjust my mask so that only the portion of the screen that I want to be affected is being affected. Let's talk about controlling external devices. The Sony switcher supports a variety of protocols. You can fire GPIs, you can use industry standard P-bus, you can also control 9-pin direct devices like VTRs, disc recorders using the VTR protocol, Sony 9-pin disc protocol, or industry standard VDCP. Let's take a look. Let's go to the device menu now, and under the device menu we see GPI, which says I can fire any port anytime on a timeline or a snapshot. I can use a P-bus. Same thing, all the different commands can be stored or recalled at any time. Well, let's concentrate on DDR and VTR. What you see here is a menu showing the status of all 12 devices that can be hooked up to the switcher at a single time. I show the register that's been recalled, what the status of the unit is, and the current time code, start time code, stop time code, and delay. I can enter time codes in manually by typing on the touch screen, or we can just go to the trackball. On the trackball is the device button. This toggles between controlling of a wipe positioner or DVEs and the devices. So we're going to select VTR1, which you see is device 1. I'm going to hit play, and now we're playing. I can go into shuttle, and by using the Z-ring on the trackball, or if you have a joystick module, the three-dimensional joystick knob, I can shuttle. And it feels just like a digital Betacam or a BVW75 would. And for fine-tuning, I can hit jog. And now, again, just like any Sony videotape recorder, I can jog this to the exact point in time that I want to set it and hit start time code. Notice up here on the menu, it now shows me my register and my start time code. If I hit run as part of an effect, it will now play it. If I hit rewind, it will cue it back to my endpoint. Notice up on the trackball, it's showing me 2 green lights. These are my indicators that it is stopped and it is queued to the point that I told it to. Sometimes you want the deck to automatically stop. So let's say right there I want it to stop. I can hit stop time code. Notice now up on the menu I have a start time code and a stop time code. When I run this effect, let me rewind it, and I hit run, it will play up until the stop time code and make a perfect freeze. Now that we've learned how to use external devices, let's tie it all together. And for that, we'll use the shotbox. Think of the shotbox as a master recall for every region on the switcher. So now what I've done is I built a new effect, this time using a disc recorder. When I run the effect, it plays this. Notice up here, I actually have a timeline on my menu. What it's doing here in this pause is it's requeuing to a different clip. So when I hit run a second time, it plays back a completely different animation. This would be good for something like a replay effect where I have something coming on and then something coming off. Now obviously this would look great with video underneath it. So here, we're going to create a timeline on one of our mix effects bank. And you can see a timeline has been programmed up on ME2. I'm going to run this as a timeline is supposed to do. At certain points of time, things happen. Let me run that one more time. You can see that here it kind of cuts, stops. I'm going to hit run again, and it's going to wipe across the screen. Now, let's play it back with the clip. So what we have now is the logo comes up and makes it look like the logo is coming at the screen and does a transition. I play it again, and the wipe underneath wipes from one thing to another. Another version of this, using a different clip, allows something like this. So what you see here is a beautiful way to do transitions between 2 different sources. I also have programmed the switcher so that it ignores the cross points. So if we go to the ME bank during a complicated show just to do wipe, say, between VOs, I can simply preset a source, wipe, preset a source, wipe, preset a source, and wipe, and do this all day long. Now that we've tied everything together on the switcher with the shotbox, let's use multiple shotbox recalls in a real-world application. So what we have here is kind of a fake little newscast. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up on camera 2, we're going to preset the over-the-shoulder box, we're going to take the over-the-shoulder box, and we're going to super her. We're going to lose it, and we're going to get ready for our remote effect. We're going to take the remote effect, we're going to preset it because we want it to come full. We're going to take it. I'm going to hit this button because I want to bring in our logo towards the bottom here. The next thing I'm going to do is we like to go up. They're talking on the remote, but we like to go up and we like to wipe back to camera 2. So camera 2 is here, and I'm going to run my animation, and it's going to wipe back to camera 2. Next thing is, it's time to go to the bumper. I'm going to preset my bumper.